Hello, and welcome to Leeroy Gaming, where today we are going to continue our coverage of Outriders. And today I'm going to be providing you with my ultimate Technomancer Borealis Monarch set solo and co-op build. Now, that may be a mouthful, but basically, if you've been trying out the classes or maybe you've been watching videos and you're not sure if you're going to be playing fully solo or maybe sometimes dabbling in co-op, if you're not sure, play the Technomancer and use this build. If you're going to go solo, probably use this build. It's ridiculous. If you're going to co-op, definitely play this build. You're going to love it. Your team's going to love it. The monsters are going to hate it. Now, in this video, I'm going to be covering everything. So we're going to be looking at the legendary sets, as well as my recommended weapon for this build. Now, we're not just going to be looking at the leaked weapons in general and the gears. I'm actually editing the pictures to put in the mods that I want for this build, because not all of the generic mods that were shown in the pictures fit my build. So that's all going to be entered there. It's going to give you everything you need with the gear. Now, we are also going to take a look at the skill notes. So you're going to know exactly how everything synergizes together by the end of the video. And of course, I'm going to go over the specific skills that we use for this build as well. Now, if you're new to my videos, you're going to notice I go really in depth on everything. So for your convenience, I've added extensive timestamps below so you can navigate to different parts of the video. Maybe you want to see information on a specific piece of gear, etc. So hope you guys appreciate it. Now, if you guys like my content, keep it simple. Slam that like button, helps me a ton. And with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into the meat of this video. All right, now the first piece of gear for this build setup is going to be that crown of the Borealis Monarch. Now, as we look at this gear, very important with this piece of gear and any other gear we look at today, don't worry about the item level or the actual numbers when it comes to like defense ratings or damage ratings. That's going to differ depending on when you get your weapon, and also this is data mined, so it could be inaccurate. But what we want to care about are going to be the mods and the set bonuses. Now, as we look at the set bonus to begin with that we're going to be utilizing here, I want to go over the 3 skills that we're going to be utilizing within this build. So the first one's going to be the cryo turret. The second skill is going to be cold snap. And the third skill is going to be blight turret. Now, cryo turret and blight turret are pretty straightforward. Cryo turret's going to drop a turret that's going to basically shoot ice and doesn't do too much damage, but it freezes enemies. And it kind of tanks pretty well for you as well. The blight turret is more of like a flamethrower effect, but it's going to basically do damage and do the toxic debuff, the dot effect on anything that it touches. And finally, cold snap is a gadget where you're basically going to drop it and it does a giant AoE freeze. It innately doesn't do any damage. It just freezes everything. But that's important because it's going to do crowd control, and you're going to see some really interesting synergies when we look at the mods. So those are the 3 abilities we're going to be using for these builds. It is going to be a very close combat focused build. So a lot of people say, oh, Technomancer needs to be long range. Well, not necessarily. You can't be long range, but we are probably this is going to be a build that's going to be able to be very, very tanky in the face of the enemies. You're probably not going to have too much trouble surviving, especially if you're able to leverage those turrets to crowd control and also take some of that attention off yourself, regardless of whether you're playing solo or in a group. Okay, with that being covered, let's take a look at the set first. So, increases the weapon damage on frozen enemies by 80%. So you're going to be freezing everything in this build. And later on, we're going to have some other stacking bonuses to this. But right off the bat, we're going to be, anytime anything is frozen, and don't forget, even your melee attack freezes enemies, they're going to take an extra 80% damage. Also, crit damage is increased for all party members by 10% for 8 seconds. That's not huge, but it is for everybody. So that's really nice if you're playing, especially in co-op. And this is after using the cold snap ability. Okay. Now, as far as your first two mods, the first one's going to be twins. Cryo turret for the cryo turret. So 2 turrets can be placed before triggering the cooldown. This is big because you can spam them more. We haven't had a chance to try this out. So I don't know if this means that you can have 2 of them out simultaneously or not. That would be awesome, and I hope that's how it works. But worst case scenario, I guess it would be you place one down, it dies or runs out of time, and you can immediately place the other one before it goes on cooldown. Not as good, but still better than having it be on cooldown right off the bat. Next, you have Painful Chill. Snap Cold applies extra 29. Again, don't worry about the number. It says 29,000. That's irrelevant right now, but it's going to do damage to all enemies affected by the skill. So it now turns into a big AoE damage ability. Well, not a big, but it's going to do AoE damage, and that can be very helpful, especially weakening or even killing some weaker enemies. So that's quite nice. And remember, you do instant leech even at level 1. 15% base of all ability damage you do is going to heal you. So this can be a nice emergency heal. You have like 8 to 10 mobs surrounding you. You drop this, you insta heal probably to full or pretty close to it. So that is the first piece of gear. Now, the second piece of gear we're going to take a look at is the waistcloth of the Borealis Monarch. And so with this, the very first mod is going to be Cryo Down. So it's going to decrease the skill's cooldown by 50%. Again, we want things to be frozen 24/7. So not only can you drop 2 turrets, but now the cooldown is 50% faster. Plus, we're going to be having other ways of lowering your cooldown even more. So this is going to be almost 100% uptime, and that's a big point of this build. Now, the other element is Freezing Boost. It's the other mod. Boosts your damage against enemies affected with freeze by 20%. Now, don't forget, the set bonus gives us 80% when they're frozen, and now this is an additional 20%. So in that circumstance there, now it's 100% already. So really, really solid tier 2 mod. And that is piece of gear number 2. Okay, the third piece of gear in the set is going to be the gloves of the Borealis Monarch. Now, with this set, we're going to do Captain Hunter. We're going to keep this, even though this is kind of a more generic set. This mod, it doesn't necessarily rely on any specific ability, but you increase your damage against elites by 20%. And because those are really the things that have the most health and are the most dangerous, 20% is nice. Just a flat 20% damage increase. Can't go wrong with that. And then you got Euthanizer. So deal 20% more damage against enemies afflicted by toxic. So the other set, we had 20% afflicted by frozen. Now it's an additional by toxic. Well, you're going to have the 2 different turrets, cryo turret, and we're going to have the blight turret. So it's very common that enemies will be affected by both. So that's 40% just from those 2 nice little debuffs. But it's going to get even better. So nice little piece. So that is piece number 3. Now, armor piece number 4 is going to be Robe of the Borealis Monarch. And with this, we're going to start with Icicle Storm. So killing enemies frozen by the Cold Snap skill makes them explode for a certain amount of damage in a 5-meter radius. So this is especially good for mopping up lots of groups of enemies that are bunched up. So you pull a big group, or let's say if you're playing in co-op, you may gather up a bunch of enemies, bring them all together, like kite them, you cold snap them, burst on one of them, and as you kill one, it's going to AoE burst, probably proc another death, proc another death, proc another death. So this is just a really nice tool to give you some AoE killing potential. Now you're also going to get Frostbite. While frozen by the skill, enemies have reduced armor by 34% for the duration of the status. Now, this is important for higher difficulty levels. Early on, you can notice stuff dies really fast. But when you're pushing higher tiers, end game, you will inevitably fight monsters that are going to have very high armor. being able to lower that by 34%, very, very helpful. So that's where this is going to come into play. That is item number 4 of the set. All right, and now we have armor piece number 5. These are the boots of the Borealis Monarch. So the first mod that we're going to add to this, not from the set innately, is Anomaly Echo. So grants you a certain amount of firepower. Here again, it's 113,000 and 94,000 anomaly. Again, don't worry about the numbers. Basically, it's going to boost your firepower and then your anomaly power a little less than that, but still a good amount. Bonus on skill activation for 15 seconds. Now it says any skill activation. Remember, your turrets are going to be dropping like crazy, especially a cryo turret. You can probably milk this to where, because it's up for 15 seconds, you can have almost 100% uptime, if not 100% uptime of this. So it's going to impact your gun damage and also your turret damage and your cold snap damage, all of that. Phenomenal tier 3 mod. And then you're going to get enriched anthrax. So blighted turret increases the turret's damage by, a certain amount of number. Now, we have not found any mods that are related to blighted turret yet, that lets you use it twice in a row, like the cold snap. If that one is available, I'd probably prefer that. Maybe I would even potentially get rid of maybe the armor lowering one. I don't know, because we don't have full perspective on how much this 8,000 damage really translates to, how much of a buff it is. But no matter what, I would still rather have 2 uses of the turrets of each of them, so I could drop them together, versus 2 and 1, which is the case right now. But for now, until we hear otherwise, until we find out whether there is an additional mod that lets you drop 2 of these at a time before reaching cooldown, this is going to be next best bet. And again, going to really help power up that blighted turret for you. And that is the final armor piece. Now, before we jump to the final weapon, I did want to mention that this Saturday, right after the game launches on Friday, I believe, I am going to be streaming Outriders from 9 a.m. Pacific until 5 p.m. Pacific, both on Twitch as well as on YouTube. Love for you guys to come and check it out. I'm hoping that people check out these videos. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to check out which one has the most comments, which one has the most views, which one people like the most. And especially if you call it out, I want to see which one of these 3 builds you want me to push. So whichever one gets chosen or seems the most popular, I'll play that one first. Either the the Technomancer, the Devastator, or the Trickster, and try and basically, put proof in the pudding, I guess, or whatever the wording is. The saying is, I want to put this really into play in retail. So hope you guys come and check it out. Again, this coming Saturday from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. Pacific time on Twitch. Channel is Leeroy Gaming, or it's also going to be simulcast on YouTube as well. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the final gear piece, which is going to be the weapon. And the weapon for this is going to be the Voodoo Matchmaker. Now, this is the level 9 version that I got with some modifications here. So there's, in this particular weapon, while we're not really looking at the actual firepower damage, what we do care about in this particular build are these elements here, or these factors. Now, these, from what I've heard, are not random. So if this has weapon leech, healing received, and close range damage, this should be consistent for this legendary. And this is big because you want weapon leech, you want this healing received, and you want this close range damage, because you're going to be doing a lot of close range damage here. And this is going to be amazing because it's going to combo your innate weapon leech that you get for being a Technomancer, and that's going to be really, really good for your survival. Now, as far as mods, you're going to definitely want vulnerability bullets, because shots inflicted are going to make enemies vulnerable. Okay, and we're going to see why that is so very, very important when we look at the skill nodes. But basically, we are going to be making everything vulnerable in the game that we fight, and our vulnerability is going to be supercharged, way more powerful than anybody else's vulnerability debuff. And vulnerability basically makes it so that the enemies that have vulnerability will take more damage from all sources. Now, as far as your second mod, you have two options. You can either go for more of an AoE focus, which is going to be ultimate damage link. Shots link up to two enemies, sharing 30% of their weapon damage dealt and 10% of their anomaly damage dealt. Both your weapon damage and anomaly damage are going to be pretty solid. So this is just a nice way for chain killing enemies. Or if you want to just supercharge and basically focus fire enemies or kill a bunch of adds right leading up to a boss and then burn a boss down, you can get Killing Spree. Now, Killing Spree increases damage by 30% for this weapon. Note it says this weapon, so not other abilities, for 30 seconds. Bonus deteriorates with time and stacks up to 3 kills. Now, this got nerfed. It used to be, from what I saw from previous pictures, used to be up to 5 stacks. Now it's down to 3, but that's still 90%, and it's still very powerful when you factor in all the modifiers from the skill tree. So those are your two options. This is, I feel like, if not the best legendary for this build, definitely one of the top ones. And again, as far as getting the baseline one to get some of these mods, you can farm it in the beta right now. So that is the weapon. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the skill nodes and see how this all comes together and gets supercharged. Okay, here we are on the Technomancer kind of skill tree. And I do want to, again, emphasize that you start with 15% skill leech and 15% weapon leech. So your cold snap damage, your turrets, that's all going to be those skill leeches. And obviously your weapon damage is going to be from your weapon. And if you happen to have that legendary I picked out, in that example, it had 12% weapon leech. So right off the bat, combined with your innate skill, that's over 27% weapon leech right off the bat. So lots and lots of nice consistent healing. Now we gotta beef us up because, again, this is going to be a close range. This is going to be in your face tanking with your little turrets build. So right off the bat, we're going to get 10% health here. And we're not going to miss a chance to increase or lower our cooldown for gadgets. Those are basically interesting enough, it's your cryo turret. It's not your blight turret, but it is your cold snap. So your cold snap and your cryo, all your freezing abilities basically, or your freezing skills, are going to be gadgets. We're going to get another 10% health. And now here is the first part of the key to your success. We're going to go up here and say toxic applies vulnerable. Now, you can either get this right off the bat, because remember, you're not going to get your ability to do toxic damage in this build till level 22, but we kind of want this 40% vulnerability. Now, if you have a way to do vulnerability as you level up for a weapon or something, get this. If not, hold off, and let's get to the other area first, okay? You're going to hold off on this. Do not get this node yet. This is going to be at the very end game. Instead, so let's just say you don't have a way to do toxic damage early on. You're going to go here, get the 10% health, 15% skill cooldown for gadgets, 10% health again. Get this 20% armor. Get another 10% of health. You're going to have lots of health in this build. Then get this 15% skill cooldown for gadgets. So now we're at 30%. Go over here for another 10% health. So here it's 40% health already. So lots of healing. But come here. Now freeze applies vulnerable. You want this as fast as humanly possible, because now whether it's your melee attack, whether it's your cold snap or your cryo turret, you now automatically apply vulnerable. And get this right away, it makes it 40% more effective. Now, at some point here, you're going to get your blight turret. As soon as you get your blight turret, get up here, get toxic applies vulnerability, and get 40% vulnerability effectiveness. These add up. So now you have 80% more effective vulnerability. This is huge because both of your turrets apply vulnerability. So does your cold snap, and so does your weapon. Assuming you have that weapon or you're able to get that mod that I noted there into whatever your current weapon is. So as soon as you get that, it's pretty much GG, but we're not done yet. We're going to go ahead and increase your turret health by 100%. So we want to make sure when they die or they go away, it's on our terms, not on the monster's terms. an additional 20% armor. You're going to get an additional 5% weapon leech, 20% even more armor. You're going to get activating a gadget skill, increases all healing received for you and your allies by 30% for 7 seconds. This is bonkers. This is going to be up all the time because your cryo turrets are going to be constantly put down. And also your cold snap counts as a gadget as well. Then, increase all healing done by you and your allies by 20% baseline. So 20 plus 30%, that's 50% in that circumstance. So remember, we have 15% base here. With this, we have 20% leech. So this already would be an extra 10% just from that situation, not counting your weapon damage even. And now don't fall for this trap. Don't get the 6% skill leech. Get the 30% damage against frozen. So now, don't forget, the set bonus was 80%. We had that mod that was an extra 20%. Now this 30%, that's 130% damage against the frozen targets. And then the most ridiculous capstone, activating a gadget skill increases weapon damage and anomaly powers by 40% for 10 seconds. This is going to be up all the time because cryo turret counts again, cold snap counts again, and just buffs everything. Oh, and by the way, if you just happen to die, which you won't, you can pop up every 180 seconds with 50% health. Now, looking at your calculations, you're going to get a capped out 60% armor bonus. You're going to do damage against frozen 30%, an extra 40% to your max health. Your gadgets get a maximal cooldown of 30% faster. Vulnerability effectiveness 80%. You're going to get an additional skill leech of 15. Well, this is your baseline 15% skill leech. Weapon leech is going to be up to 20. And then don't forget all these healing and buffs. And after all of this, you're gonna have 1 point left, and you're gonna go back here. And if you weren't tanky enough, you're gonna pick this up. So after using your melee skill, gain 40% damage mitigation for 3 seconds. So if you're fighting a tough boss or there's a bunch of mobs, you're running in, do your running AoE jump attack, boom, 40% damage mitigation, kind of helps save your skin. You're going to have a ton of armor already. You're going to have a ton of health. You're going to be healing with everything, and you're going to crowd control everything like crazy. Again, what makes him extra special is not only is he arguably right up there with the Devastator as far as survival, but he's not greedy at all either. He helps everybody heal. Everybody survives. So if you're playing in a 2 or 3 player co-op group and you're not sure what to play and you want to have something fun and super powerful, play the Technomancer, play this build. I almost guarantee nobody has this exact setup, even though I'm sure this is mimicked quite a bit more than my other 2 builds, since it's kind of very straightforward. The difference really is in picking the specific mods, the specific weapon combination, etc. But I hope you guys find this helpful. If you guys do like this content and you've watched this whole video, maybe you like it enough to where you want to subscribe. But at the very least, hopefully you like it and you drop a like on this video. Other than that, guys, looking forward to making more videos for you. So my name is Leeroy. This is Leeroy Gaming, and I will see you guys in the next video.